Yeah, well, going back to running a business while you're doing this, for us, it felt like our time was money because we were running a business. So if we had taken a year to do this boat project and taken our focus away from our business, that could have cost us a lot. So we were willing to pay more for the boat that was in the right condition, pretty much ready to sail, so that we could stay focused on our business and continuing to grow that, because that was going to be our ability to really create longevity with the lifestyle if we could afford to keep going. So I'm glad that we did that.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Obviously, you mentioned that you took out a loan, but at the same time, you run a business, so you have a plan to paying off those payments, so you have safety in financial terms in that way. But let's talk about your business. What is it that you actually do? You mentioned it's a greeting card company, but what aspects of that do you run from the boat? Obviously, you don't do everything there. You probably have employees or contractors and so on. So what do you do from the boat for the business?
We do all the designing for new products. We do the marketing. We do the advertising. We do basically everything that you can do online. The things that don't happen here is the manufacturing. So we have manufacturers that we deal with remotely who actually assemble the cards and then ship them. And then distribution as well is done by another partner. So fulfillment of orders, they're picked and packed and sent to our customers from fulfillment centers, both in the US and in Europe. So we don't typically touch our products, which is kind of crazy. When we do go and visit family or something, we'll be sending samples to ourselves to be delivered there and stuff. But pretty much everything is done remotely. So it's crazy, but we were in like very remote anchorages of the Caribbean and in Scotland, and where there's no other people around for miles. And yet, I'm discussing and building new products and having them manufactured and delivered to customers. And it's just kind of a testament to like how far technology has taken us, that we were able to not only continue our business, but actually grow it year over year, which is really cool. And so, we've been able to, over the past couple of years, continue to build things up, and we've paid off our boat loan. And so, yeah, it feels really good and amazing that we can do this.
Yeah, I would be curious to hear. Well, you spent some time in the Caribbean and now in Europe as well. In my mind, I think that running a business on board would be easier in Europe just based on maybe internet availability and reliability. But can you talk to that a little bit? Is it actually easier based in Europe, or does it matter?
I think the connectivity is pretty good now, even in the Caribbean, especially if you're prepared for it. So we use a couple different Google Fi phones. Google Fi is a plan, and so they're on Android phones, but it allows you to have, they have partner relationships with all sorts of different cell providers. So basically, I think it's 160 countries. You can bring this phone and you'll get data wherever you go. So that worked for us in the Caribbean as it does here. And then separately, we also try to pick up a local SIM card for sometimes faster data local SIMs provide. And so I think connectivity is pretty similar. What I will say that makes working in Europe a little easier than in the Caribbean, at least so far, is the environment. Like in the Caribbean, when it's like hot and it's sunny, you like really don't want to sit inside of work. You just want to jump in the water and go swimming. And right now, like it's actually a nice day outside in England right now, but it's much easier to like sit inside, especially when it's raining out and stuff like that. So I think like that's a bigger difference to me than connectivity.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing. It is hard to sit on your computer for 8 hours a day when you're in these like beautiful places, and you might only be anchored somewhere for a few days. And so it's different. We see these other boats, right? And they're living off of their savings or retired or doing something else. So when they're in a place, they're really in it. But for us, we're not on vacation or retired. We're working. This is our life, which is also interesting when people come to visit us, because they're on vacation and they feel like we're on vacation too, but we're not. This is just our home, and it keeps moving, and we work wherever we go. And Phil mentioned we got married a couple of years ago. We still haven't had a honeymoon. And when I mentioned that, people are like, "What are you talking about? Your whole life is a honeymoon." And I was like, it doesn't feel like that. I just work every day and do boat projects. Like a honeymoon to me would be 2 weeks off of like no work, no boat projects. Like that would be a honeymoon. So kind of funny.
Yeah, it's definitely a different mindset for sure. Seeing everybody else going on vacation and trying to keep yourself disciplined to actually do the work. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Whether you think it's actually feasible to work from a sailboat, and I assume you do since you've been doing it. But what are some of the things that you have to take into consideration if somebody wants to do that? Like obviously the internet thing is one if you're doing whatever you're doing online, but what else is there that you have to kind of think about?
Yeah, I would say if sailing is your specific goal in trying to start a remote business or do remote work, make sure that kind of like we talked about before, that what you're doing doesn't have a strict schedule involved with it. Because if you have to commit to being somewhere or being available at a specific time every day or every week, that's going to be really stressful because you never know what's going to happen with the weather. You never know what's going to happen with the boat, with your connectivity. So anytime when I have to be online at a certain time for a certain reason, I find that really difficult. And so that's what I've so enjoyed about having our business be really flexible, at least in terms of the things that we contribute to the business. So if others were interested in doing that, find a business where you really can set your own schedule and you're not having to answer to anyone else for their schedule.
Yeah, and maybe just a different way of saying that same type of thing is there's loads of different types of work that people can do from anywhere now, especially this year with sort of forced work from home type of situations. So there's like stories of realtors who are now like making deals from their sailboat and stuff. But whatever you can move from, say, in person or video calling into like emails, for example, that allows you to have some degree of time flexibility, or it allows you to do email responses using satellite communications as opposed to, being unable to talk, while you're on passage. But so flexibility of schedule, but also flexibility of mode of communication is really, really handy too. So one thing that people who have less flexible type of work might find useful is using like a land-based type of secretary or a land-based type of virtual assistant or somebody who can be like an intermediary or who can step in and, take care of other communications while, you're out of the area or something like that temporarily.
Yeah. So if we're going to be offline for 10 days for a passage, we'll let our virtual assistant know that we're going to be offline and that they need to be monitoring our different email accounts. And if something really critical happens, that they should contact us via our satellite communication while we're out there, but otherwise that we're going to be offline. And luckily we've been able to make that work. Sometimes I've even had my mom step in and be like our end office manager and field emails if need be. But just if this is your goal, yeah, choose a job that would allow you to structure your schedule that way, because that'll make things a lot less stressful. There are people who just live in a marina and they work, a normal job during the week, and then they go off and explore during the weekends, and that opens up the possibility of a lot of more typical jobs and professions.
Yeah, except never set sail on a Friday.
Is a superstition about that, but yeah, there's people who can do it no matter what, but for us it would be really stressful if we had to adhere to a tighter schedule.
And do you guys spend a lot of time in a marina? Obviously now you do because it's been winter there, but summertime, are you mostly on anchor or are you in marinas?
Oh yeah, we're hardly ever in marinas. I would say in the Caribbean, we were at a marina once when we flew home for Christmas.
Yeah, we pretty much only go into a marina to leave the boat or when the season is done, like right now in England.
Yeah, but the costs just add up so quickly that if we stayed in a marina all the time, we would be paying more than probably the cost of renting our apartment back in Boulder, Colorado. So for us, being at anchor allows us to put a lot more of our budget towards, doing boat maintenance, going out to dinner, doing fun things.